Imagine spending 10 years as a DevOps engineer. My name's Abdul and my journey started with a Udemy course and a cheap old laptop. Today I've decided to make my very first YouTube video. We're going to be playing a game of this or that and I'll be sharing all my knowledge. Let's begin. So, first question. This channel was made to either sell a useless course or educate. Well, who's got their lunch money? Of course, it's to educate. Now listen, I've gone through YouTube, I've seen a few videos. Everybody waffles and waffles, but they barely show a line of code. In fact, I'm going to break that stereotype right now. Let's cut straight to my text editor for a quiz of the day. So this is a very simple null resource Terraform example. I'm just echoing quiz via local exec provisioner. The problem is that when I commit this lock file to Git, anyone running this on a Linux VM, it will break, as I'm on Mac. There's a very simple example on how to fix this. And I'm going to give you the one-line command that fixes this. Terraform providers lock a -platform flag. As you can see, when I press enter on this, additional checksums for this platform are now tracked in the lock file. So effectively, this is now a cross-platform Terraform piece of code, i.e. a root module. Alright, back to the PowerPoint. Right, so first major question, the DevOps market is thriving or empty? Now, this is a bit of a trick question because it's a yes and no. The times have changed, even the terminology has changed. People are moving more towards platform engineers. There's more niches like DevSecOps, MLOps, even more moving into data engineering. And my goodness, the AWS cert blow and all the other certs coming out. Yeah, it's just a confusing time in the market right now. And to add to that, nowadays there's a bunch of applicants with AI CVs. So yeah, it's not looking great. Personally, I think it's thriving. However, I would say interviews are much more difficult. I mean, there's something like 5 stages, and on top of that, just getting past HR is a challenge in and of itself. So, how can I get into DevOps? Focus on certifications or build a home lab? Wow, this is a bit of a tricky one. I'm going to tell you it's a mixture of both, but I'm going to also highlight there's some dinosaurs in the corner. So Udemy and Linux Academy, both I used in 2016. I was one of the OG course buyers / subscribers, and a cloud guru went and bought out Linux Academy, and Udemy courses got filled with bloat by people who frankly should not be teaching a course. So the very first thing I did when I learned DevOps is I went into the documentation of every tool. So Terraform, know the documentation inside out. Argo CD, prepare to go in and out. Oh, Kubernetes, for goodness sake, you're going to be copying and pasting manifests every day. So I would say it's a mixture of both, but personally focus more on building a home lab and focusing on learning each tool individually. That's my take. Now this one always makes me crack up. Are we being replaced by AI? I can straight away say no. There are so many things a DevOps engineer has to do on a daily basis. Our knowledge base covers so many edge cases. I mean, whether it comes down to debugging, speaking with stakeholders, I mean, the amount of hallucination Claude has done recently for me when I'm asking it for a specific Terraform resource. It's making up random key value pairs in Argo CD. I mean, let's not even begin. So it's a very strong no. So, which was harder, getting my first role or heading to 6 figures? Now, I can tell you, without doubt, it was getting my first role. Absolutely nobody trusts you, there's no credibility. Personally, DevOps isn't even really a junior profession. So to build up your knowledge base before even transitioning into DevOps is very difficult, especially when, oh my goodness, the internships are getting more and more competitive. So it's very much so getting my first role. Now there's lots of tips and tricks I can give you about that, but I'm not going to share that in this video. It's going to come up in a future video. Okay, so what's the biggest difference in a junior and senior engineer? Well, it's either the attitude or the code proficiency. Now, I'm actually going to lean a lot more towards attitude, and the main reason being is senior engineers are a lot more calm. We do not rush out changes, and we know to blame test cases and not humans. It's very important to have a good engineering culture. Effectively, another big thing I would say is that as a senior engineer, I've had to pick up so many skills on the fly. I learned Terraform on the fly. I actually learned Python on the fly when I moved to a serverless environment. And then I spent 5 years on GCP as a lead DevOps engineer, and the very first day I'd never even touched the GCP console. So you can imagine, it's all about being adaptive and flexible, and you've got to have a bit of a detective mindset. So when things break, don't panic, don't rush, get to the logs and go step by step down your stack until you find the issue. It could be pagination, it could be caching, it could be DNS, it could be an expired SSL cert. It's all attitude. Do not panic. Is Kubernetes king? And that is a yes. So it is, in my opinion, the most valuable knowledge set you will have as a DevOps engineer, because basically every org has moved over to Kubernetes. The amount of things you get for free, I mean, you've got operators nowadays like the external secrets operator, the Prometheus operator. I mean, you've got quick Helm charts like the Fluent Bit Helm chart. You've got different ways of managing your deployments. So Helm charts, customize, whether you want a standard pipeline or you want to use Argo CD, GitOps. It's semi-cloud agnostic. I've got some notes here. I mean, you've got a managed control plane. You just really have to manage the nodes, and even that's running in the cloud. And you can switch to on-prem if you wish. There's cloud-specific integrations, like you can deploy a Cloud SQL proxy. I mean, it's got multi-tenancy built out from scratch. You can customize it how you wish. You can have a service mesh like Istio, advantages like weighted routing, mutual TLS. There's a lot to cover in Kubernetes, but yes, Kubernetes is king. Now, this is an interesting one. Does the cloud provider matter? So the most common three are AWS, GCP, and Azure. And I'm going to go with a hard no. It's very easy as a DevOps engineer to transition between them all. Sure, there's going to be different APIs, different IAM schemas, different Terraform providers to get to grips with, different network architecture, and the managed services differ, though there's quite similar. So you got, for example, Aurora, Cloud SQL in GCP, Cloud Spanner, DynamoDB, or something like Firebase or Bigtable. You just got to get familiar with all the different terminologies and all the different languages and how they describe their products, right? But at the end of the day, as a DevOps engineer, you have to be flexible. And personally, I believe every cloud has its benefits. Personally, I do love the multi-region VPC in GCP, and I've always been a big fan of GCP, but I'm ready to jump on any cloud. Now, production issues happen all the time, yes or no? I've actually written down a Google quote here. At Google scale, 1,000,000 to 1 chances happen all the time. So, I mean, I would say production issues do happen all the time. The severity can vary, so I'll give it a yes. Just some recent examples. There's an AWS S3 outage in 2017. You can check the Azure status history for all their recent incidents. I remember we even had an issue with GCP Cloud Asset Inventory when we were just about to launch the product to production. So, every cloud provider has its issues. Even within my own team, people have forgot to, pin a Terraform provider version. And we've had cases where people have written Terraform modules using count. Somebody wants to remove something in the middle. There's a left index shift, and suddenly it's going to try and destroy everything. So always use for each instead of count in Terraform. Free tip. So, DevOps YouTubers, do they waffle a lot or show real expertise? Now, I'm going to go ahead and straight up say they waffle a lot. Now, I talk a lot, but genuinely, I can back it up with knowledge. I've seen YouTubers with 15-minute videos, barely showing 2 lines of code. You go through their LinkedIn, they barely have 3 years of actual experience before becoming a course guru. So, and you know what? When you actually want to learn something, you always go through the documentation. You always go through the GitHub issues. Never have I seen a YouTube video which has actually just gone, oh my goodness, that's fixed production. No, it's never happened. So, I'm here to try and show real expertise and actually educate people, but even I waffle a little. So I'll say waffle a lot. So you've reached the end. This is Apple in the Cloud. You can reach out to me on my Gmail. Now, please do subscribe, because this is my first ever video, and I promise you, I've got an entire syllabus I want to cover, and I'll actually go into depth on the topics you like. So first things first is I'm actually going to create a Terraform playlist. So please do subscribe. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.